down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I have a bunch to celebrate tonight, and we have some interesting news that popped earlier today. So first of all, I just need to say to Sabo OH over on Rumble, yes, right before I come on is Secret Agent Man by, I believe it's John Bartman. You can check in the show notes to listen. It's the song right before I come on. Anyway, all right. So happy 500. I've reached 502 subscribers on Rumble. This is a momentous occasion. Thanks to all of you, my Whiskey Warriors and subscribers, which is absolutely fantastic. I do appreciate every single one of you. And I can't thank all of you enough, because of this, because there is a, when I started this off, it was kind of like an echo chamber, and it's really difficult to talk into an echo chamber. And so as I started getting more and more people coming in and more, I got to give props to the Mark K show. They really helped a lot. And the Mark K, the other Catriots, that several of them are not only Catriots, but they are also Whiskey Warriors. So I've got to give props to them as well. But the thing is that it's humbling to understand, how many of you keep coming back on Wednesdays and Saturdays to listen to me and the content that I am producing. It is extremely humbling, and I really, really do appreciate it from everyone. I know I've got a bunch of people who are out there that are so they've been around since the beginning, and they've put in a bunch of work, not only just for me, but also in broadcasting and talking about the channel and getting more people and so on and so forth. I am so excited about this. And, I appreciate every single one of you, new and old. I appreciate all of you. And what's even better is the fact that because I've reached 500 on Rumble, I've actually seen the number of views on my videos have pretty much doubled in the last several months. And so this is a monumentous occasion, but I can't stop. I have got to keep going because I want to make this, just grow and expand and everything else. And I'm sorry, I sound a little off because I'm watching the chat over here, and I'm seeing a whole bunch of people popping in and everything else. So Alan over on Facebook says you need to get on Twitch. I tried Twitch for a while, and ironically, Twitch and I have a very interesting relationship. Apparently they don't like the Whiskey Musings Broadcast for some reason, because I'll be on, and then about every month I'll get an error where I can't stream anymore. I can't log in anymore. I try changing my password and it doesn't work. It won't change it. So yeah, I'm having a big issue with Twitch. So I appreciate, a lot of people want me to go to Twitch. I know there's a few out there that want me to go to Twitch. But I can't, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And now I seem to have somebody over on YouTube that is potentially a troll, whatever. They're celebrating over the fact that Trump obviously is, anyway. So anyway, just all of that is just fantastic. I can't even tell you how excited I am. I'm so excited that I had to break out the special tonight. I had to break out the Crown Royal Black. You can see it right there, very dark liquid. I had to break it out for this momentous occasion, and I do appreciate that. So here we go. And yes, this time I do have my whiskey stones in there. They're black instead of the green cacti that I had before. But anyway. So, all right. And I'm getting a little crap from Bonnie, of course, over on Rumble because I'm not drinking Four Roses. Love you, Bonnie. Also love Fat Paws too, by the way. All right. So let's kind of start and get into this. Just because of the fact that I have so much to talk about. It's not even funny. This one's probably going to go over a little long. Hopefully not too long, but I'm going to try and do what I can. But tonight's episode, let's go ahead and get that started as soon as I can find it here. All right. Tonight's episode is affiliated by the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 with a nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.whiskeymusings.online. To sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.whiskeymusings.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous leather-bound Saddleback U.S. Constitution to support the show, look at this thing. It's got a nice 1/8 roughly of leather. We have water-resistant pages for the entire book, and check out that stitching, and it binding goes all the way through the document. This thing has a 100-year from the manufacturer, 100-year warranty against materials and defects in workmanship. They will either repair it or replace it if they can't repair it for the 100 years. It's a great keepsake. Go ahead and if you want to just buy this and support the show, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online, constitution.whiskeymusings.online, and you can purchase this fabulous buddy-tested, buddy-approved, and young 12-year-old Boy Scout getting his wonderful badges in today. You can purchase this and support the show. Also, do me a favor, run over and check out the Institute on the Constitution and the rest of their wonderful stuff today. And I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate as well as a, I guess you could call it a brand ambassador, I suppose. Anyway, all right. So. Looks like I've got some interesting, we'll call them trolls. Anyway, out there. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next segment of the show. Every Saturday, of course, We do On This Day in American History. And, of course, we read On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, which is put out by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. Go and pick one up. These are fabulous. It gives you it's a really thick book, gives you a day-to-day suggestion on American, little tidbits about America every single day. And Pakarik, I'll get you a link that'll work to go and get the passport in a little bit. I'll try and either you can email me your email address at fans@whiskeymusings.online, and I'll go ahead and reply back with the link that'll get you to work. If the link within the show notes doesn't, or the link that I gave you doesn't work, then I'll go ahead and I'll give you another one that'll do. All right. So Buddy asks real quick, on page 89 is where I'm at. This is for March 18th. Parliament repeals the Stamp Act. No taxation without representation. That was the angry cry of American colonists when the British Parliament passed laws requiring them to pay new taxes. Britain had spent a great deal of money to protect the colonies, especially during the French and Indian War. In Parliament's view, the colonists should help pay for that defense. The colonists took a different view. They were used to being taxed by their own assemblies, but they had no representatives in distant Parliament. As they saw it, they were being taxed without their consent. They especially hated the 1765 Stamp Act. It said that most printed materials, licenses, contracts, wills, newspapers, pamphlets, almanacs, and even playing cards, must bear an official stamp, which the colonists had to buy. The act inflamed the colonies. Riots broke out. Mobs attacked homes of royal tax officials. Young Patrick Henry rose to speak in the Virginia House of Burgesses. Caesar had his Brutus, Charles I his Cromwell, he said, citing two famous rulers whose actions had led to their own deaths. And George III, some members were shocked. Treason, they shouted. Henry continued, and George III may profit from their example. If this be treason, make the most of it. Stunned by the furious response, Parliament repealed the Stamp Act in March 18th, 1766. But the crisis had made Americans acutely aware of their rights. As John Adams wrote, the people were, quote, more attentive to their liberties, more inquisitive about them, and more determined to defend them. And that is tonight's On This Day in American History. You know, I got to admit, I didn't plan that. I mean, nobody really planned to have that, but it kind of makes one wonder because of what happened with today's announcement. Now, first of all, I just got to say that the entire Twitterverse has been just alight with all of these quotes and everything else, and you know, especially the announcement that came out from Trump directly. Actually, believe it or not, he kind of broke it on his Truth Social account, which a lot of people thought was just, you know, really, really cool from that. But the thing is that, you know, this situation is, well, let's just be honest. It isn't really much of a surprise that this situation has come about. And it has nothing to do with whether or not Trump has actually done anything. The thing that's really funny about it, though, is that it's taken them forever. I mean, think about this. The guy's basically been ostracized since 2015. And you had the Trump collusion hoax. You had the Russian collusion hoax. You had the PP tape hoax. You had the impeachments, which were literally just shows. Even though, you know, yes, he was impeached twice. Okay, great. But obviously he never got convicted over anything, which, you know, the whole the impeachment thing January 6th, incitement of a riot incitement of an insurrection is what they call it, not a riot. I call it a riot because that's exactly what it was. It was a riot that happened on the outsides, and we're starting to see images and stuff now in terms of all of the footage that's going to be released here, that's going to be released to the public hopefully soon. The footage that Tucker Carlson has seen, all of these things. It's just they sit there and by they, I mean the left sits there and talks about, oh my gosh, we're going to get him. What happened to all the classified documents? All of a sudden now, Biden had all kinds of classified documents, and then you had even Mike Pence had some classified documents. And, so again, folks, I'm just going to tell you this announcement realistically is, I don't know where it's going to go, but I kind of think that it's probably going to be a bit of, again, a nothing burger for the reality of it. And I know a lot of you out there are really, really mad and really, really ticked off and are looking like, because, I mean, let's face it, we do have a two-tier justice system here in America because of the fact that we have Biden sitting in office, Hunter Biden, his son, and, Joe Biden's brother, James Biden. They all deserve 100% to get arrested. Hunter Biden, oh my gosh, he lied on a federal FFL form. He's been seen sniffing drugs on video. They have proven that he took money from foreign Chinese entities. I got some of that tonight. And that kind of stuff. And we sit there and we look at this and we're just like, well, this is two-tier justice. And I agree with you. It is. It is two-tier justice, and it really sucks. Okay. But the reality of it is that sometimes you got to go through fire and you got to go through hell in order to come out better on the other side. Okay. So here's the thing. All right. And let me just get right into it. Honestly, let me just drop right into this. So here's the thing. Trump announces that he will be arrested on Tuesday. Okay. And, I'm going to be honest with you. He threw in there protest and take our nation back. Okay. There's a problem with this though. And here, long-term people who have been here on the program need to understand that I am not necessarily a huge fan of Trump the man. In terms of what he does in his personal life and everything else, there are things that he does that I am not a big fan of. And I'm certainly not going to sit here and belabor the point. That's my opinion. He does a bunch of things. He says shit that honestly is off the wall. And I'm just going to tell you, he is not my biggest fan or my biggest, I'm not his biggest fan. Let me rephrase it. I'm not his biggest fan. Okay. However, when you are presented with two people, like what our voting system does, you have the choice to choose the better of the two individuals who are up for election. In some cases, we do have like a Green Party or an independent party that might be a part of it. But realistically, our system of government is built off of winner take all. And therefore, it is not conducive to the whole parliamentary effect of breaking up the government into certain parties and certain sects, like you have with either the Israeli government or even, the UK government and parliament. Okay. So that being said, all right, 100%. That being said, if Trump is the nominee come 2024 for 2024 for the Republican Party, I am 100% going to be behind Trump. I will vote for the man. If DeSantis becomes, magically throws his hat in the ring and all of a sudden he becomes the party leader and becomes the man who's going to be up against the, up against the Democrats, then I'll throw my weight behind him. Because the fact of the matter is, if you leave off or if you don't vote, you're actually making it so that the other side has an additional vote and will win. And this is what I think a lot of people don't seem to understand, is that while I don't necessarily care for Trump's antics and some of the things that he says and some of the things that he does and some of what's in his past, because I'll be honest with you, he's a narcissist. All politicians are. Even me on this program, I am a closet narcissist in certain ways because of the fact that I gain, a thrill realistically whenever I see all of you coming and coming in and being a part of this show. Okay. I get a thrill when I get your email messages. I get a thrill when I see the chat blowing up like it is now. I get a thrill out of that. So it is a certain level of narcissism that pretty much everybody has. We all like to be praised when things are going well. Not very many of us like to be criticized. Okay. But the reality of it is literally this. These people live in the public eye. They live for the spotlight. That's what they're for. Trump has always been that way. So it doesn't really surprise anybody that he has narcissistic tendencies or is a narcissist himself. Okay. Now, all of that being said, do I think that he made a bad president? Absolutely not. And the reason being is because of the fact that Trump has a good idea of what the country should be like. He does have a love for America. Okay. He's a businessman. I actually think that the federal government would do a hell of a lot better if it was ran like a business. And he is a businessman. Yes, he's had some failures and bankruptcies. So what? All businessmen have. If you've ever listened to like Warren Buffett has failed so many different times. Failure is what makes you learn and to not repeat the same mistake. And so realistically, I am actually kind of looking forward to this. Honestly, if he gets the nomination, which again, we're a little ways out, but if he gets the nomination, okay, then he gets in as president. I'm excited to see what changes he's going to make, because I guarantee you his first time in his first 4 years, he made a ton of mistakes. He may not think he did, but he made a ton of mistakes. Okay. And so honestly, I'm excited to kind of see what he can do when a lot of the bull crap that's being pulled by the other side is pulled out of the way. And I think at the same time in 2024, I think we're really, especially thanks to Joe Biden and the rest of these freaking people that are making us do all of these things and collapsing our banks and running up the deficit and running up the inflation rates. And Janet Yellen is a complete, utter stupid person when it comes to finance. But anyway, the point, I digress. The point being here is I actually am kind of excited to see that of what he will do differently this time around. Now, given that, would I prefer that DeSantis not jump in the ring? Absolutely. The reason being is because as of right now, we really don't have a good second choice after Trump other than DeSantis, meaning that DeSantis, if he decides to jump in the ring now, is potentially blocking what could be a full 12-year run at the White House. Okay, so as far as that goes, I mean, honestly, again, I really don't want to see DeSantis in. I've said it on this program. I'll keep saying it. I think DeSantis needs to stay in Florida for his entire term and then take the 2 years in between when his term as governor ends and the following cycle in 2028 for his presidential campaign. And he needs to start doing that, in that time frame. Now, okay, so outside of all that, all of those politics and setting up for 2024, we literally have essentially a side that has been trying to go after the Trump guy for several years, ever since all the way down to 2015. And here's the thing. I haven't been able to quite discern within a section beyond a reasonable doubt in my mind as to why they are going after this man. I mean, seriously, if you really think about it, if they would just stay out of his way and not give him the attention and the time that the news media time that he does, his impact would be severely limited, to be honest with you. But they've gone after him and they keep going after him. And even then he's out of office, they gave him a platform. They kept going after him. They kept chasing him down. And why? There's got to be something huge, just absolutely humongous and huge about this man that they absolutely don't like, which is making me more and more curious to see what it is that they are so damn scared of, because of the fact that he is taking a lot of heat. I mean, let's be honest, more heat than just about any other political figure within recent history, even when he's out of office. And I don't understand. I don't understand why they are trying to take this one individual down. Now, he sits here and he says, the reason why they're coming after me is because I'm standing in the way of them coming after you. And I'm seriously starting to believe that. I am seriously starting to believe that. So here's kind of the thing, and this is something that happened. There's a couple of things that happened that were really interesting. Now, let me get into the case a little bit more here, but a couple other things popped here in the last day or two that are really, really, really interesting here. First of all, I don't know if anybody knows this, but YouTube has actually restored Donald Trump's channel. So if you recall, Donald Trump got kicked off of a lot of social media platforms, one of them being Twitter, which was the biggest platform and the most, shall we say, sensationalized takedown, quote, takedown of a president. But he also was taken off of YouTube and Facebook. Well, YouTube has restored his channel again. Now, he's already over on Rumble. I'm going to tell you right now, Rumble, the free speech alternative to YouTube. And realistically, I mean, that's why I've been posting and pushing my content and pushing my desire to expand my user base over on Rumble, because as far as I can tell at this point, it's going to be bigger than YouTube, in my opinion. I think YouTube is going to go down, and I'm laying my bets on it. That being said, I am transmitting to YouTube right now, and I do appreciate the 106 subscribers that I have over there. And if you're watching me on YouTube, that's fabulous. Thank you very much, because I want to keep going into areas where, I'm not as welcome as I am on Rumble, because of the fact that I've got to get the message and the truth, the information out in front of them. Okay. Now, from that point, okay, he also has been reinstated on Facebook. And he actually posted on Facebook, believe it or not, he posted the words, "I'm back." And then he updated his banner image, which I followed him. I mean, I'm following him. So that's essentially, I mean, he's starting to come back. And I honestly think that maybe this announcement, or at least the leaked announcement, because the funny thing about it is Trump actually said that the announcement came from leaked reports. And I saw it going on Twitter a little bit last night. I saw it going on there and talking about everything about that. And yeah, I mean, I saw it there, and I saw that the sycophantic, leftist troll paid bot accounts like JoJo from Jersey or whatever, and the Brooklyn Dad Defiant, those idiots that are out there that are they just throw shit out there, and they kind of repeat each other's crap. Like Rob Reiner is another one that like announced all of this stuff and was like, we're going to see him perp walk. Well, okay, fine. It's unprecedented for them to go after the man and arrest him. And what's even worse is it's unprecedented for him to be gone after for the bullshit crap. And I'm sorry, I'm swearing a little bit tonight, but this is sort of, I mean, literally, come on. This is a freaking misdemeanor that they are trying to turn into a felony. And what's even worse, and okay. So first of all, the FEC, let me just get, I'm getting pulled off. All right. First of all, the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission, dropped the investigation, the original investigation into these Trump hush money payments. They've already dropped this. Okay. They've already dropped the case that New York is trying to turn into the felony. Let me explain. Okay. So this came from the Daily Wire, and keep in mind, everything that I'm showing you, it's all down in the show notes. You can go and click on the links and everything else. But here's the thing. Okay. The big problem with the Stormy Daniels hush money case, and this is seriously what they're doing. Okay. They are trying to get him, not with the fact that he paid it, because let's face it, we know there are so many other people out there within history that have all paid somebody to shut them up. It's a common occurrence. And ironically, it's not illegal, by the way. So all of this stuff being talked about in terms of, it was $130,000 payment, all of this other crap. Well, here's the thing, is that part isn't illegal. That part actually isn't even the problem. The problem was the way that it got paid. And the issue is how and when it got paid. Now, if Donald Trump and his legal team, particularly Michael Cohen, okay, marked the funds incorrectly in their accounting for where those funds came from and where they were going, that's against New York state law. And it does have I think it's a 6-year limit, statute of limitations on it, which we are supposedly close to the 6-year mark, supposedly. But here's the thing, is that even if they get him for it, it's still a misdemeanor. It's a slap on the wrist. It's pay a fine. Shoot, Trump could probably pay the fine and be out the next day in terms of his, quote, arrest. All right. So again, why go after him for this? Now, here's the thing. There has been some indication in some of the articles that I've been reading, and a lot of people have been talking about, that this is going to be a felony, that they're going to try and prove, the prosecution is going to try and prove that the way Trump did it was designed to cover up another crime, in which case that would turn this misdemeanor into a felony. And that's kind of the thought process here. Okay. But the reality of it is, the original crime that they're talking about, supposedly, and this is, again, all of this is alleged. They have not proven, they've not been in a court of law. They haven't done anything. All of this is alleged for him to have done this. It's a misdemeanor. Okay. Now they're going to go and perp walk a guy for a misdemeanor, a former sitting president for a misdemeanor. They're going to perp walk him for it. I'm sorry, but all of this crap is it literally is doing nothing but just inflaming the base. That's all it's doing. And Elon Musk tweeted out today, he's like, if this happens and if this is true, you've just handed the election to Trump. And I tend to agree with that, honestly. So long as the people and the base don't lose sight and get short-sighted in their memories of this. So the key here is going to be, first of all, can they prove that he allegedly mismanaged or falsely accounted for the money, number one, which is going to be hard to prove by itself, okay? But then number two is whether or not he was covering up another crime by doing it the way that he did, which is even harder to prove, okay? And that actually, and I'm going to back off, hold on. I got to find the article. That actually is exactly what Alan Dershowitz, let me show you this. That's kind of exactly what Alan Dershowitz said. That even if they did get him, and let's say they even convicted him for it, okay? So they indicted him and they convicted him and so on and so forth. It's probably going to get turned over on appeal because it literally is a complete trumped up, pardon the pun, bull crap charge. Okay? It just, oh my gosh. And Dershowitz, by the way, just so everybody knows, Dershowitz, number one, is no fan of Trump. He's not even a fan of the left or of the right. He doesn't like conservatives. He actually comes from, I think, at the Clinton era, maybe the Bush era. I don't know. But the thing about it is he is a law professor emeritus at, where is it? Where is he? Harvard Law School. He's an emeritus professor at Harvard Law School. And he basically said, I don't think there will be a motion to dismiss that succeeds this New York justice in New York. Of course, you can indict a ham sandwich. Funny how he used that. But continuing on with the quote, but in New York, you can also convict a ham sandwich because the jury pool will be very much against Trump and the judges will be very much against Trump. So in other words, you're seeing essentially another January 6th style of attack on this guy. Okay. So anyway, he says, Dershowitz continues here and says, so if I were him, I would be worried today. He probably ultimately win on an appeal, but do judges today have the courage to do something favorable to Trump in a city which overwhelmingly despises Trump? And that's what's wrong with this justice system. Okay. So here's the thing. I mean, again, he's reportedly set to face the indictment for the payment made to Stormy Daniels. The payment was made by Michael Cohen and Trump supposedly reimbursed the lawyer. And that essentially is, again, the allegations that are against him, which under New York state law is a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. But hey, guess what? All you sycophantic leftist nut jobs, there's something I gotta tell you. Even if he gets convicted of this, even if they get him convicted of the felony, this document right here tells us that he will still be able to run for president of the United States of America. You want to know why? It's pretty simple. You have to be convicted literally of what is considered high crimes and misdemeanors. In other words, things like treason or espionage. This is not even remotely close to any of those. He could be convicted and he will end up getting immediately put back on the ballot. So all of your freaking sitting there and going, yay, it's the perp walk. Woohoo. It's time to, yeah, we finally got him. We took 7 years and 50,000 investigations. I emphasize 50,000 investigations and we finally got the man on something. Well, guess what? It's still not going to stop him. Oh my gosh. Oh, you guys, just, I cannot even imagine what these people are going to say. You know what? Rob Reiner went and was posting him talking about it on Twitter. And I just posted, I said, just imagine the meltdown you're going to have when you find out that even if he is convicted, even if he's guilty as hell for this, it's not going to stop him from running and may not even stop him from attaining the presidency. Jesus. I mean, that's been their whole point this entire time. They couldn't even get him on espionage. You know, that whole like classified documents case, that's all gone. It's disappeared. It's like, what the hell? I mean, seriously, come on. Read this effing document, people. Learn it. Understand it. This is what our country is guided upon, and there is nothing in here that states that because the man is a criminal and of underlying state laws that he cannot be president. There's nothing in here about that. Complete moronic leftists. Oh my gosh. All right. I also want to point out that there is, once again, you know, oh my gosh, we got him. We got him. We got him for something that's never been got before. Okay. That's never been got before. Well, guess what? Oh, I loved showing these people that they're completely wrong. Oh my gosh. Check this out. Bill Clinton settled a rape allegation from Paula Jones for $850,000. So Trump's 130 hush money isn't even on the list of things that a politician has done. God. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And you know what? He actually even paid that because the trial was looming and his impeachment was looming, which, hey, liberals who don't study history. I'm sorry. I refuse to call them liberals because liberals are not. If you got to check out my podcast, my last episode podcast to understand this, but I refuse to call them liberals anymore because that's an insult to liberals. Leftists. This man that you see pictured in the picture here, woohoo, over here in the middle. Okay. That guy was in the process of the trial when he paid that $850,000, and then he went on and got, oh my gosh, impeached. He did not get removed. So he's in the same boat that Trump was. He got impeached, but he didn't get removed. Okay. Oh my gosh. Anyway. All right, guys. I mean, seriously, if this even occurs, because again, keep in mind, they may arrest him. Trump's already come out. I'll be honest with you. Trump's already come out and said that if he does get indicted, that he would go and turn himself in. Now, do I believe that's going to happen? Yeah, sure. I would actually think that he would turn the tables on them. And as soon as it's announced that he's been indicted, he'll just show up at the front door and say, okay, let's go. Take away the entire whole perp walk idea, folks. Just take it away. And, it's just, it's crazy to me that these people are out there and they're celebrating all this and they're saying, oh my gosh, we're finally going to get him. When you have a person in the White House who has been literally a criminal for his entire career. Okay. which, by the way, is my second topic for tonight. So it was also announced in the last couple of days. All right, no, hold on. Give me a second. I got to take a drink here. All right. It was also announced in the last couple of days that, oh my gosh, Hunter Biden sues the repair shop owner, the laptop repair shop owner, over alleged invasion of privacy. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Okay. I'm just going to throw this out here. So first of all, we were told that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. Okay. That was the huge thing right above or right in front of, 2020, October, November of 2020. That was the huge thing. Okay. Now, the thing about this is that we all knew it was true. Everybody knew it was true. The New York Post had already vetted it. They knew it was true and full of factual information. But, the Twitter and Facebook and YouTube cut everything down. In fact, I'm probably even going to get cut down tonight on YouTube just because of this, which is why you got to go to Rumble. But anyway, he decided at one point, and that, by the way, during this entire time, since October of 2020, when the story broke, the Biden family has never once denied the fact that the laptop was his. Okay. They never, ever did. All right. But now he's basically said, yep, the laptop's mine. I did drop it off at that shop. And I essentially, am going after the guy for the information that was presented. There's one problem though, Hunter, in your cocaine-addled brain. All right. We have a legal and binding document that disputes the ability of the shop to have done this alleged invasion of privacy. I grabbed this document from the case. And you can actually see at the top of the image, maybe you can't, but at the top of the image here, let me bring it up here so you can, oh shoot, I might have to, hang on. I'm going to close off the closed captioning for a second. You can't see it because it's too tall. Hold on. Really? Oh, come on.
I'll see.
Sorry. Technical difficulties on let's go back here. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. But anyway, the case number, let me go ahead and read it. The case number is 1:23-CV. That's Charlie Victor -00247-MN. And this is document 1-1. And down here at the bottom, you can see terms and conditions for this. And let me just read to you. The very last paragraph is what is shown. And it essentially goes like this. Equipment left with the Mac shop after 90 days of notification of completed service will be treated as abandoned, and you agree to hold the Mac shop harmless for any damage or loss of property. In the event of non-payment, the Mac shop reserves the right to remove any equipment or parts in a 60-day warranty period. And a okay, so part of this, hold on. I'm sorry. So the Mac shop reserves the right to remove any equipment or parts installed. And then it says a 60-day warranty is provided for all service and repairs. We will happily demonstrate that the repair and upgrade is complete upon picking up of the upgrade, upon pickup of the upgrade or repair. This warranty excludes software, accidental damage, or any part not exchanged in the repair. So here's the thing. Down at the bottom of the document, the quote that, oh, looky here. That looks like that could possibly be Hunter Biden's signature. Okay. They basically say that if you abandon it, it's no longer their responsibility as to what happens to it. And the claim is that it was abandoned as well as non-payment. So Hunter didn't even pay for the damn thing, the repair. So honestly, unless Hunter Biden gets his wonderful Biden family involved and actually, gets to a point where the Biden family gets involved and pulls some strings, there's nothing in here that legally he's going to be able to do with this. Okay. Yeah. So again, I just don't see where this is going with this, but it gets even worse for the Biden family. So even though he's trying to sue for the alleged invasion of privacy, even though he left the damn thing there, the Biden family has now, according to the House Oversight Committee, has now been completely tied. And you'll remember I did a couple episodes ago where I discussed the connection between China and Hunter and his father, Joe. And I kind of went into it pretty exclusively. If you don't watch Dan Bongino, which you're missing a shit ton of stuff on this, if you don't watch Dan Bongino, but if you watch Dan Bongino, you already know all of the stuff that I went through. I just kind of went along with what he was doing. But apparently they now have receipts that essentially trace the money from China to the Hunter Biden family or the Hunter Biden holdings, all the way to even, oh my gosh, Hallie Biden, the wife of Beau Biden, was in there as well. So it's not just Joe, it's not just Hunter, and it's not just James. Now we have Hallie tied to this crime family situation. Okay. So anyway, the point being is that this is just getting even worse. And these are based off of bank records that were obtained by the Biden family, which, by the way, I just want to let you know, those bank records were actually flagged in what they called a SAR report, a suspicious activity report. And there were multiples on Hunter Biden's situation in banking. There were several SAR reports that were sent about the suspicious activity that was going on in Hunter Biden's bank account. That's a federal law. That is a federal law that all banks have to adhere to, and they all do it. And so, yeah, again, here we are. We have a family that's in the White House that is literally proven to be foreign agents for at least the Chinese Communist Party, if not more. And the whole Ukraine thing, I haven't even gone to the Ukraine thing. The Ukraine thing is covered very, very well in Dan Bongino's Follow the Money book, which I don't have sitting over here right now, but believe me, I have it. Chapter 1, read it. But anyway, now we have this popped, and this is the Chinese firm that bankrolled the Biden associates. This comes from the Daily Caller, and it actually came out, I think it came out today. No, it was a couple days ago. But the Chinese firm that bankrolled Biden associates are closely linked to Communist Party officials. Well, okay, look, I'm just going to be honest with you. Anything that's in China, for the most part, is linked to the Communist Party. All businesses are owned by the government, even though they might have private entities named in the documents. It's all owned by the Chinese Communist Party. So don't even think that that's the case. Right. But anyway, so apparently there was an issue in this report, the initial report, about who it was that was there, but they've issued a Daily Caller has issued a correction on this. But the Hong Kong company, which wired over $3 million bound for the Biden family associates in 2017, has close ties to and shared personnel with a firm formerly run by multiple members of the Chinese Communist Party. A Daily Caller News Foundation investigation determined. In March 2017, just months after President Joe Biden's tenure as vice president in the Obama administration ended, State Energy HK Limited wired $3 million to Robinson Walker LLC, run by Biden family associate John Robinson Walker, a House Oversight Committee memorandum revealed last Thursday. Yet, the DCNF found at the time of the $3 million transfer, the chairman and executive director of State Energy Group International Assets Holdings Limited, SEIAH, then a direct subsidiary of State Energy HK Limited with close personnel ties, appears to have been Ren Guingin, Qingxin, which I don't even know if I pronounced that correctly. But anyway, who formerly served as a CCP representative at a business organization, according to a website belonging to a state-owned construction firm where Ren previously worked. Okay, look, if you have not figured out yet, and oh my gosh, first of all, thank you so much. I got to throw this up there. Thank you so much for the Rumble rant. I do appreciate it. Uncensored news. I thank you. I try to bring the balance to the force. But anyway, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate that. J Mats, thank you. But the point here is that seriously, I mean, if you have to be told that the White House is, and especially Joe Biden in himself, is not a foreign agent. Now, do I honestly believe that Joe Biden is actually, cognizant of anything anymore? Yeah, that's debatable. We can discuss that. But the fact of the matter is that the Biden family has been run for many, many years, and definitely during the time that Joe Biden was in the White House the first time as the vice president, in comparison to now today being the president, he is a foreign agent. His family's are foreign agents. They didn't register as foreign agents. And by registering as foreign agents, not talking about the 007 or the MI5, MI6 kind of agent. What we're talking about is what's called a foreign agent, meaning that they declare to the United States government that, hey, I am a lobbyist for a foreign entity, state run, other run, doesn't really matter. I am a lobbyist for a foreign entity. And that essentially is what I mean by foreign agent. He is a lobbyist for a foreign entity. He's done it in the past with Ukraine when he was the vice president. We have that on video. Everybody's seen it, where he talks about getting the prosecutor fired. The quote being, well, son of a bitch, he got fired. That whole thing. So anyway, I'm done. I'm done with this. You cannot tell me this man is not compromised by at least the CCP, if not more. There's even some suggestion that he might even have some ties to Albania because of that FBI agent that got caught in his, that case is still ongoing, by the way. But the reality of it is this guy and his family, they're just dug in. I can't even imagine. They're just dug in on this stuff. And here we are, trying to fight inflation, and we're supposed to be, our economy is hunky dory and it's all roses and wine. And I don't understand why you're complaining, because we have the greatest economy that has ever been in the last, 20, 30, 40 years or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Once again, this guy lies. He's lied all his entire career. He can't even, yeah. Anyway. All right. Moving on to our next one. All right. So last episode, I talked a lot about SVB, and I gave an explanation. And it was a close look at what happened with the Silicon Valley Bank closure. Okay. And of course, one of the big things about Silicon Valley Bank is that While it's not necessarily proven that any of this really has any relevance to what happened, it sure seems suspicious that a lot of Silicon Valley Bank's investors are Democrats and have not only money but also businesses that were a part of the whole Silicon Valley Bank. Now, I'm not saying that because they were invested in these things that, these things are not, that they're actually tied to the closure of SVB. SVB was actually mismanaged. I explained that in the last video, how the SVB went long on bonds betting, even though the Fed was saying multiple times, hey, we're going to raise interest rates. They went long on bonds. They were hoping that the interest rates weren't going to go up. And they did a wrong bet, and they ended up in a point where they didn't have enough liquid cash on hand to be able to hand back to their depositors. And so the bank ended up being taken over. Well, this article popped. Check this out. SVB Bank. This is from Yahoo Finance. So SVB Financial, which is the parent company to the actual bank, files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. 1 week after regulators, both California and apparently the FDIC, seized the struggling lender. Now, is this really necessarily a bad thing? I'm going to tell you this honestly is probably nothing more than a process to make sure that they can get a hold of the assets and be able to disperse them appropriately, to discharge some of the bank's debt, and essentially this is not like a Chapter 13 closure. Now, I'm not an investment banker. I'm not an expert on chapter or on bankruptcy and everything, but Chapter 11 generally tends to be a reorganization and not necessarily a complete dissolution of the business. Okay. I don't think that they would be able to go to a full dissolution in this particular case because of the fact that it's been taken over by the FDIC. However, this does not bode well for the idea that SVB was realistically a safe place, which the new CEO announced last week, basically saying that, hey, it's a safe place for you to put your money. This does not bode well for that. It really doesn't, with the head company, the higher up company, going and filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. To look for protections so that they don't get in trouble, essentially with finances again. But anyway, so apparently the filing does not include the bank itself, but it's more of the venture capital arm of the organization. And the company said in a statement that it intends to use the bankruptcy process to evaluate strategic alternatives for the SVB Capital and SVB Securities arms of the company, as well as other assets and investments. In its filing, it listed as much as $10 billion in assets and liabilities. Okay. So again, even though this came out, this isn't necessarily directly to the bank, but it certainly doesn't bode well for the organization, to be honest with you. And by the way, as far as the SVB Bank is concerned, okay, apparently this article popped in the Washington Free Beacon, and there's a list of tech companies, liberal media outlets, and prominent Democrats that were saved because of Biden's bank bailout. Now, I already kind of covered a little bit of this. I mean, Gavin Newsom, his 3 wineries were involved in Silicon Valley Bank. I think I listed Nancy Pelosi, one of her wineries was also involved at SVB. So there's a hint that there might have been an external motivation for the Biden administration and the Democrats in particular, who run the Biden administration, to bail out this bank when realistically they should have probably let it die and let it go into receivership and then sold it off to other banks. That most likely would have been a lot better. And it, unfortunately, it's not like SVB was not like Signature Bank. Signature Bank invested heavily in crypto. SVB invested heavily in long-term bonds, and that's where its liquidity ended up having a bit of a problem. But this is the listing that we saw here, is that here's a few of them that came out that were part of the $209 billion in assets and $175.4 billion in total deposits. One of them, obviously, I've already mentioned, Gavin Newsom. BuzzFeed, which is a liberal online company, and revealed to its investors that it held $56 million in cash and cash equivalents as of the end of 2022, held at Silicon Valley Bank. The majority of that were held at Silicon Valley Bank. Vox Media, the parent company of dozens of liberal news outlets, including Vox, New York Magazine, The Verge, Polygon, and Polygon. It discussed in news stories that it banked with Silicon Valley Bank before the collapse. Black Lives Matter. Okay, we already know that Silicon Valley Bank, I told you about this last week, that Black Lives Matter was heavily had a big chunk of money come from Silicon Valley Bank. The Green Energy Racket. Now, I have no idea what that is, but it's, let's see. And it doesn't really explain what it is. But anyway, so you can see realistically, I mean, nepotism lives large in the Democrat Party today. It really, really does. It lives large and in charge. So Silicon Valley Bank, there's going to be obviously more details as the thing gets figured out in court and everything else. Now, with all of this other stuff that's been going on, another batch of Twitter files have dropped. Now, I don't know if anybody's really been tracking it. I kind of lost interest after about dump number 7. But not by a bad lost interest. There's just so much to cover, that it was difficult. But apparently another drop came, and it talked about, Stanford partnering with Twitter and the Biden admin, to essentially censor stories of true vaccine side effects. Okay. Check this out. This is in the Post Millenial, and again is in the show notes. But Stanford partnered with them, and truth repeatedly was labeled as a disinformation event if that truth caused skepticism among others. So this is how they figured it out. Okay. Matt Taibbi, of course, unearthed still more evidence of collusion and censorship at Twitter, all done by people and institutions who were believed that they were righteous in their efforts to ban and block Americans from telling the truth about their own personal experiences with the COVID vaccine. This time, it's Stanford University and their virality project that told officials what information should be banned. Taibbi reports that Stanford's virality project took issue with accounts that used factual information to question the expert guidance of Dr. Anthony Fauci, former head of the NIAID. He notes that the accounts questioned the Wuhan wet market origin story of COVID, instead suggesting that the virus could have leaked from a Wuhan virology lab, were suspect per Stanford. That lab leak theory is now the primary COVID origin theory per officials. Well, I hate to say this. You can actually go back in my library. When COVID first hit, I essentially said the chances that this thing came from the lab were pretty darn large. And it's not that I have any special like clairvoyant or anything like that point. It just made common sense that you had something brand new show up, never been seen before, and it shows up, and oh my gosh, there happens to be a lab, which, by the way, was testing that particular virus. I'm sorry. It common sense eludes these people. It really, really does. But anyway, I digress. The point is, though, that now, and even now, they're even talking about how some sort of a raccoon dog, which I have no idea what the hell a raccoon dog is, but now they're sitting here and they're talking about a raccoon dog, possibly, or at least they're trying to cover it up again, talking about a raccoon dog being the one that did it in the wet market. They're still talking about the wet market. I mean, seriously, folks, just freaking admit it. Just admit it. We already know that the government funded gain of function research. We know that. We already know that it did that in the Wuhan laboratory. We already know that there was at least a release of the virus in Wuhan. Okay. We already know this. Now, whether or not the thing was purposely released or accidental still kind of remains to be seen, to be completely fair about the whole thing. I'm not entirely sure that it was totally released, but I think that it was an accident, that unfortunately and there were a couple of scientists that worked at the Wuhan lab that got sick back in September of 2018, 2019, I can't remember. Anyway, they had gotten sick and they sought medical attention in a local hospital. And I think that's where it started, to be honest with you. So yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, that's just the thing on the latest on COVID and the Wuhan lab, which, by the way, we have a committee that's going to start digging into all of this stuff in the House at this time, and they're going to dig into it and get it all done and everything else for that. All right. Now, we've had a major concentration from the Biden administration, from the Republicans, from everybody. We've had them all focus so much on the southern border that I actually think we're missing a huge gap in our immigration vulnerabilities. Okay. Our immigration vulnerabilities. I saw this article and I immediately thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, they must be reading my mind. Because the Post-Millennial came out with this. This came from American News, it is part of American News on the 17th. Apparently, illegal immigrants are flooding into the U.S. from Canada as Biden's border crisis deepens. So, one thing that a lot of people tend to forget is the fact that we actually have two borders. One is our southern border on Mexico, and two is our northern border, which is on Canada. Now, typically, we don't have problems going through Canada because of the fact that the Canadians actually do a pretty good job at preventing illegal immigration on their own soil, which is something that we should do. But the fact of the matter is that now there seems to be a bit of a problem. And this is where the Post-Millennial kind of points this out. The migrants that we're seeing or that are being caught up by the northern border are primarily from Mexico, unlike what you're seeing at the southern border, where it's Cubans, Guatemalans, Venezuelans, Colombians, even Chinese being caught down on the southern border. But right now, apparently the Mexicans are traveling to Canada because they don't have to have a visa in Canada before crossing illegally into the U.S. In other words, because of some sort of a connection between Canada and Mexico, Canada allows Mexican citizens to come to Canada without a visa, and then they just basically disappear and they slip across our northern border. Okay. And apparently this has happened, according to the Post-Millennial. The number of illegal border crossings between Canada and the United States has increased nearly tenfold over the past 5 months in the region between Northeast states and Canada, local law enforcement officials say. From October 1st to February 28th, around 2,000 migrants illegally crossed the border between Canada and New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York, south going through the forests, compared to just 200 crossings in the same period the previous year, according to NBC News. Migrants are mainly from Mexico, and they can travel to Canada without visas before crossing illegally into the U.S. Sheriff David Favreau's department in Clinton County, New York, has had to assist the U.S. Border Patrol in giving medical attention to a number of the migrants, with some suffering from frostbite and or mild hypothermia, he's told NBC. His quote says, "We are seeing more and more people, and it can be a deadly terrain if you're not familiar with it." Favreau has called for more resources from the U.S. Border Patrol. Fat chance of getting that with this administration. Sorry, I digress. Back to the piece. Who recently added 25 agents to the area to deter migration, but locals say that's not enough. All right. So here's the thing. We have an immigration crisis, okay, folks? We have an immigration crisis, and part of the problem is because of the fact that we're basically handing out free stuff to these people and allowing them to just come into our borders and run amok everywhere, okay? Also, the other thing too, by the way, just in case you don't know, the northern border is actually not very well clearly defined in certain areas. In fact, there's a certain space in Michigan that the only way for you to physically get to the state of Michigan at that northernmost point is to go through Canada. Okay. So there's a lot of places along our northern border that are not really well marked and not really clearly defined. And there certainly isn't anything such as a fence up there. Okay. So, yeah, this is a bit of a problem, and I think it's actually underreported because of the fact that the southern border seems to be taking all of the heat and attention these days. But believe me, I'm sure there are illegal immigrants, just about everywhere, to be honest with you. So anyway, all right, let's see. Oh, one other article, and then I'm going to move on from this. Oh, actually, you know what? Forget the other articles. Let me go ahead and stop because I actually had a really interesting, question of the week come in. And so let me go ahead and get that going right now. This is questions for whiskey. And, of course, and tonight's question for whiskey comes from Bonnie over on Rumble. And she says, "Hey, Whiskey, can you do a show on the Convention of States? Wondering if this is something that could help us bail out of the mess our country is in this week. Thank you, Bonnie." All right. So here's the thing. A convention of states. So let's go ahead, and if you have one handy and available, grab your Constitution of the United States, and the particular part that the Constitution covers with this is Article 5. Okay. And actually, I don't know if anybody saw the video, but there was, I think, God, who is that guy? Senator Kennedy questioned a guy, or one of the new appointees for a federal court judge, that essentially he asked the question. He's like, you know, what article in the Constitution covers the process of the amendment process? And she had absolutely no idea what it was. He was like, okay, what article covers the Congress and what Congress is supposed to do? And she's like, you know, the article doesn't seem to come to call. These people are not studying the Constitution, folks. They don't know it. And granted, I am not in any way, shape, or form a constitutional scholar. However, I can tell you that what I don't know, I can look up fairly easily. Now, all right. So let's look at Article 5. Article 5 specifically covers, and this is the Constitution now, But Article 5 specifically covers how amendments are added to the Constitution. And there are basically two processes by which amendments can be proposed and then ultimately ratified. Process number one, everyone is literally, every single one of our amendments has gone through the first process, and everyone should know this first process. The first process basically is an amendment is brought forth in Congress, and then 2/3 of the Congress. Now, keep in mind, Congress is broken up into two houses. You have the House of Representatives and the Senate. So 2/3 of that entire body of people have to decide, whether or not they want to support this amendment. Okay. Once 2/3 of the Congress approve it, it then goes to each single one of the states. So all 50 states have to, of course, approve it or disapprove it. It goes to all of the legislatures, and the legislatures basically say either thumbs up or thumbs down on the amendment. Okay. Now, it's a 3/4 of the states will have to go and say, yes, we agree with this amendment. And then it becomes ratified and added to the Constitution. That's the part. So it's 2/3 of Congress, 3/4 of the states. And this is part of the reason why a amendment going through this process is really, really difficult. Okay. Really, really difficult to do. But that's and that's done on purpose. I'm sorry. It is. The founders did not want it to where we could just willy-nilly change our founding document for no reason. Okay. They wanted to make it hard, and they did. They did a good job. However, there is a second option. And this is where a lot of people like Mark Levin, a guy by the name of Paul Engel, who does a lot of stuff for the Institute on the Constitution and that kind of stuff. So Article 5 also says that a mode of ratification also is a part of what's called a convention of states. And that basically means that if you get a majority, I think it's a majority, can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember if it's a majority or not, but essentially all of the states go and they petition Congress to convene a convention of states. And on that convention, they discuss the proposed amendments to the Constitution. Now, and here's where it gets really, really tricky, because the Convention of States is not really defined very well. And it also doesn't really have procedures within it to basically state that here's what needs to happen. There's questions with regards to what Congress's role actually is, other than in calling for a convention of states at the urging of the state legislatures. There is some suggestion legally that they tend to manage or oversee it. But the challenge here is the fact that once a convention of states is called, because there's really no defined rules and regulations with regard to it, okay, that it could be, there's a lot of people that are out there that say that it could be what's considered a runaway convention of states, meaning that all of a sudden you'll get enough representatives at that convention that will start calling for all kinds of crazy crap rather than focusing on whatever the amendment actually is. And so this is one of the scary parts about the Convention of States, is because, again, it's nebulous in its, even though it's been declared, it's sort of nebulous as to how it's being run. Now, proponents for a Convention of States basically say that the way that it would work is that you would have a Convention of States would the people would then set down as they convened, they would set down all of the rules and regulations, and they would say, this is essentially what we want to do. And the idea of that, honestly, is is trusting, which we know this is not the case, but trusting that the people who join in on that thing will be ethical and moral and act with integrity to be able to limit what the Convention of States actually does. And so this is one of the issues and one of the problems that I do have with the founders, especially with some of the things that they did, because some stuff that they did back in the day, that was under the assumption that people would act with integrity and under an ethical and moral guideline. We obviously see that politics is nothing of those three. And so doing a convention of states, in my opinion, it is potentially dangerous. Do I think it's warranted right now? Yeah, maybe. And we actually do. There is a petition that is running around to the state legislatures to call to Congress to form a convention of states. I don't remember exactly how many, but I think it's like 20 at this point. So yeah, it's just so nebulous and so questionable. It's sort of like the whole idea that Vice President Pence at the time could have immediately called and said, no, Trump is the winner. It's kind of questionable as to what is going on with this. So calling for a convention of states and doing a convention of states, I think it's questionable and problematic. Certainly doesn't mean that we should just automatically, gloss over the process, because it is in our Constitution and it is our constitutional right, for the states to essentially take over, but it's also based on the Declaration of Independence. The idea that when governments become tyrannical, they can be dissolved and rebuilt by the power of the people and of the states. So, I mean, again, we're dealing with a very tricky and nebulous situation because of the lack of attention to detail that, unfortunately, the founders, they had a lot of faith in people. They really did. They had a lot of faith, within the American psyche, or within the human psyche, that humans would continue to do what is ethical and moral and right and just, and follow, God's word, and understand the difference between natural law and man's law. And we're not, I mean, I'm sorry, but we're at a point right now. Honestly, I think we're at the point in the Bible where we are starting to get into the end of times, and man itself has had, in most cases, had its heart taken over by evil. And this is why we are seeing some of the crap that we are seeing today. So anyway, yeah, and I'm even getting some hits in here. my rumblers and my audience is probably some of the smartest audience that anyone could ever have. And so I got to tell you that they will call me out when I say something that is questionable. And this is the one in question. No, Pence had the duty to send the contested electors back to the states, not determine the president. And yes, okay, if there was a second slate of electors that came from the governor, but because the governor signed off on the slate that was presented, it be based on the process that was outlined within that state is part of the reason why I think Pence, unfortunately, incorrectly, in my opinion, but unfortunately, decided not to side with the entire the contested electors idea. I mean, electors have been contested. For those of you that don't know, electors have been contested over and over and over again throughout every single presidential election I think that we've had. In fact, back in 2016, there were several contested elector slates by, a House representative and a Senate representative in multiple occasions, and nothing was done back then. Honestly, yeah, unfortunately, I think the elections process is, again, a little nebulous. It's not very clear. And I think the reason why it's not very clear is, again, I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that the founding fathers totally 100% believed that man would act in an honorable and ethical, moral, and integrity-driven fashion. And unfortunately, we're not at that point anymore. Honestly, I don't think we are. And this is part of the reason why some of the stuff that's going on right now will probably never get reversed. But anyway. All right. And that's my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Thank you, Bonnie, for that wonderful question. Hopefully I answered it for you. Now, all of that being said, if you have a question for whiskey and you'd like me to center it on the program, please send it in to my email address, fans, that's Foxtrot Alpha November Sierra, phonetically spelled, fans@whiskeymusings.online. And essentially, you can send me both questions for whiskey. You can also send me pictures for Pet of the Week, pictures and stories and names for Pet of the Week. I do have a few of both in the queue right now, but that doesn't mean you guys should stop sending them to me, because I love seeing these questions. And unlike Pet of the Week, which I usually do in a first in, first out kind of fashion, questions for whiskey, I may tend to shake things up a little bit depending upon if the question is applicable to the conversation and the topic that I'm talking about. So I don't necessarily do that in a first in, first out fashion. But anyway, so the point of all of that. Oh, and let me go ahead. Somebody just reminded me about a link. I believe it had something to do with the Institute on the Constitution. So here's the link. I'm going to post it in the chat. Hopefully everybody will get there. This is the web page of the website for the Institute on the Constitution. And by the way, if you use this link, it contains my affiliate hashtag that will get credit for anything that you buy at the site. Now, let me make sure I've got it here. Got to make sure I'm not typing in incorrect stuff. Yep, I did. I hit the wrong letter. So give me just a second here. Just clarifying. Okay. So this should go out to all of the chats. It is theamericanview.com, all together, all one word, theamericanview.com, and then do a /, then a hashtag, and put in the word Whiskey Musings, all lowercase, all one word, and that will get you the and get my get what you buy. If you go to use that website, you go to that website, anything that you buy in their shop will get credit to the Whiskey Musings broadcast. So that's the old way of doing it. I created a link for IOTC and Constitution and stuff. And if that's not working, I got to go check out my website to make sure as to why and try and figure out why. But that link right there, theamericanview.com / hashtag Whiskey Musings, all lowercase, all one word, will get you the same thing. It will actually do that's my affiliate link, my actual affiliate link, for the site. All right. Yes, we had St. Patrick's Day yesterday, which was cool. I'm actually part Irish, so, even if I didn't wear green, you couldn't pinch me. But anyway, I will let you go for the rest of the evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and do me a favor. I know I hit 500 tonight. Or 500 for this show. This is awesome, but I do want to expand. I do want to grow. I do want to continue. So, do me a favor, come on over to Rumble, sign up for an account. It's free, and follow the Whiskey Musings broadcast on the Rumble. And I just want to keep continuing to do this. I want to keep continuing to bring great content to you. I've already got a couple of ideas for some other new content. And we'll see you Wednesday night on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody.